Hello all, advance warning. There's going to be a track day for the car podcast with Chris Harris and friends at Thruxton on the 20th of June. And in the evening, there'll be a podcast after the track day. This will all go live on the Thruxton website for sale on Friday morning. Limited numbers for the track day. And also, if you buy into the track day, you get 2 free tickets to the pod live record afterwards. Sun's out. 9/11's out. Come on, get in the spirit.
Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and his friends. Those friends are Manish, Neil and Chris. We're recording this quite late on Monday evening this week. Everyone's a bit tired and a bit grumpy. In fact, some people would rather not be here. They want to be in bed because they've got to be up really, really early in the morning, which means I'm going to string this out for 3 bloody hours to keep them here, like naughty boys that haven't done their chemistry work. So let's kick off with what, it must be said, is a slightly silly agenda today. First up, what is the most surprisingly good driver you've had the pleasure to sit next to? You know, that driver that was totally unexpected. They had skills and smoothness that made you go, wow, in another world, what might they have been? Chris Cooper, over to you.
I don't want to cast aspersions over the population of minicab and sort of those sort of private hire companies. Many of them are excellent. On occasion, I think we've all probably had negative experiences of the driving capabilities of operators of those vehicles. So it was a very, very unexpected and pleasant surprise a few years ago. So a few years ago, I was commuting backwards and forwards to the Netherlands every week for about a year.
In a taxi?
No, we're going to the airport. Good point. Although, when that bloody Icelandic volcano was going on, the guy I used in the Netherlands, he made squillions, Rodney, from running a taxi service between Amsterdam and London for one of the very large British banks who got into trouble in the recent unpleasantness. That's for another time. So I was used to these minicab drivers, one of whom went the wrong way round a roundabout at the Hilton at Terminal 4. I had to get out in the middle of a roundabout. One had lost his car in the short-term car park at Terminal 4, had to ask other minicab drivers where he left it. And then one had parked his car, the heinous of crimes, front ways in at a parking space, but such an angle, it was virtually impossible. I had to reverse it out for him. I did that. And then when he got a black cab, what I should have done in the first place. So it was a massive surprise, a pleasant surprise, when one day here in the yard, a guy turned up and the thing was quite clean and he opened the door for me. And when I got in, because I got used to the fact that all the heating controls will be to shot and one will be 50 on one side, the aircon numbers were equal both sides.
Good sign.
There were 21 and... this was the clincher. He'd pressed the auto button, so he wasn't juggling with fan speed and temperature. And I thought, I wonder whether his fastidiousness and pride in his motor vehicle will go as far as his driving. It did. It was the most pleasant surprise. He had a pride in the car, a pride in driving. I mean, goodness knows what I was doing there. Actually, we made a fuss of saying to the company that employed him, he's really good. He should be doing everything. That's how you should run and drive these vehicles. He's brilliant. Never send us anybody else. So amongst a sea of rather haphazard mediocrity at times, this bloke, in just whatever it was, probably a Volvo V90, something like that at the time, his driving stood out as a beacon of pride in the car amongst other colleagues who probably just thought it was a bit of a tough job to do. So that took me by surprise. And I complimented him. I should always compliment people if you think their driving is good.
That's true.
It's not patronizing. It's rewarding. You say, you clearly take pride in operating the motor vehicle. You're one of us.
Oh, well done. That was a lovely end to what felt at times a bit like a triggered piece. So let's move on to Manish.
I've spoken about this man before, but in a different context. So, when Darcy was at prep school, that's the time when I think you bond probably with most parents that you bond with because the kids are so small. I met a fellow doctor, very senior. I don't think you'll mind if I mention his name, Andrew Wright. And Andrew he's like the most urbane, he's a radiologist, very kind of calm. And it turned out that he had pioneered MRI scanning of the heart back in the day. He was a consultant in Scotland, but moved down to Charing Cross. And all the conversations we would ever have were just about, what sport does your son do? Does he like this homework? Does he, play football? Blah, blah, blah. And I never thought of him as a car person, ever. And after getting to know him for a few months, I think it was 2014, 2014 or 2015, he invited me over, invited Darcy, myself, over, his boy Ollie. We had breakfast at his house. He had this really very special house.
I'm not surprised at all to hear that, Manish.
But very special house. But I didn't know how special a house it was until we started talking about cars. And I'd known this man for a couple of years, and we'd never spoken about cars before. And he was talking about cars in the way that you three talk about cars, but more specifically in the way that two of you talk about cars. He was talking about cars like a motor racing driver. And I was like, oh, do you do a bit of racing? And he became very modest. He said, well, I go out on Sunday. He said, do you fancy coming for a bit of a spin? And I said, why not? So we went downstairs, and in his garage, he had the steering wheel of an E-Type Jaguar that he had built when he was a registrar, except for the body. And it was actually on the cover of Car and Classic magazine, this car.
Good man.
And the only bit he kept was the steering wheel. And next to the steering wheel was a 991 GT3. It was red, 2014. Beautiful thing. And we went for a little spin near Regent's Park, and he gunned it a few times. And I thought, really good driver, aren't you? And he was a really good driver. And then I found out that he was the 2014 Lotus Club Europe production champion.
Ooh.
When I went back to his house, he took me to another room which just had about 1 billion trophies in it.
Good man.
And he's been doing this for years. And Andrew's this complete dark horse. He's been a Lotus champion. He's in the Exige championships at the moment. And, he's hit the big 70, but he looks 50. He's so fit. And just one of those completely and utterly, well, exactly. Just one of these completely and utterly, I thought we were talking about football or future GCSEs or something. Turns out you're a bloody competition Lotus driver and a champion.
Did you have a moment where you thought, God, I haven't said something that maybe looks silly here, because he clearly knows.
I think I had probably about 100 of those. Would you like a drive in my Audi A4 Avant Touring?
Also, I hope you walked in and there was a massive picture of Prost on the wall and you thought, awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Neil Clifford.
Well, I was going to say Chris Harris.
Well, that would mean you thought I was shit.
Exactly.
I was going to do that as well.
Yeah,
Well,
I thought you might, Cooper.
I mean, driving the roads of the Isle of Man in a Kia, that was quite an experience. And then I was going to say John McGuinness, because he's surprisingly good. You wouldn't have thought so at all, would you? Driving around the Isle of Man, I'm not sure he's ever been there before.
What skills would he bring to that?
But my serious answer to this, actually, I thought long and hard about it, and I didn't really have any clever answers, and then suddenly I did. It's my children.
Yeah.
Because my children, I'm a shit passenger. I don't like being a passenger with anyone, and I particularly don't, in my head, like being a passenger with my children, because you still think your children are 12. You don't think they're adults. I think your kids are always young and vulnerable, aren't they, to you in many respects? So suddenly when you get in the car with my son Arthur or my daughter Ruby, they're really good drivers. And you sort of feel really quietly, secretly chuffed. and you're obviously immensely worried when they go out on their own. When they're 18, they pass a test and off they go, and you're like, oh my god, it's just going to be it's just an awful feeling, isn't it?
It is.
And I have given them a bit of not me obviously, but sort of professional tuition a little bit just to help them on their way on that front for safety. But they're both of my kids that can drive are really good drivers, and it gives you a real warm feeling. It's a good thing, that, and surprising because you still think they're 12 years old.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I've just done my first track day today with my eldest.
Wow.
And we've never been to a track day before. It happened to be Castle Combe. It was absolutely fantastic. The weather was lovely, and we went in this Golf. And I think people just thought, what's going on here? There's a bloke off the telly. He's put on a few pounds. And he's with his son, who's got quite crazy hair. And they've rocked up in a Golf. They've emptied the boot out into a hedge, which had the last thing I pulled out of the boot, which the boot, it's got a problem with some drainage things. So the boot floor was full of water anyway, so we didn't know that. So the carpet was soaking wet. Everything was swimming about in the boot because some drainage thing had blocked, so all the rainwater's been going in. The last thing I pulled out of the car was a can of Thatcher's cider, which went out of date 4 months ago. And we were not professional
It's
looking.
prime then.
Yeah, it was. We had a sort of a cuddly toy, which is in the shape of a peeled banana. We had the front wheel for a 110cc gearless motocross bike and something else. We didn't look good. But, my God, about 2 sessions in, he was going well, like really well. And I thought, there's something here.
He is good. We had him on track briefly a while before that, and he's very good.
It's not fair. So I'm totally with you, and I'm sure all of us as daddies have that lovely moment. I think I don't care about whether they actually sort of want to interact with cars the way I do, or whether I wouldn't want them to have it take over their lives like I have. But I do like that word pride that's been used already. I do like the fact that that one there, he wants to learn it and he takes some pride in it. But he's not my choice, sadly. So you have to wait in the back of the queue there, son. I think the first one I ever saw, this is slightly nuanced, the most unexpected piece of driving versus who emerged from the car afterwards easily was the first time we Autocar ran something called the Sideways Challenge, which I think was in 1997 or 8. I can't remember. And we got all the best drivers. We got drivers from different disciplines. I've mentioned it before. It was such a cool day. And you had to slide around this steering pad at Chobham in just off the M3 there. Used to be a test track. It's now a permanent film set location. And you had to, I think you started on the middle of the circuit and it went further out until the last one was quite full of jeopardy. If you got it wrong, you would hit the scenery. And we wet the surface, and we had a Formula One driver. We had a rallycross driver. We had a Class 1 police driver. Oh, dear. And we had, he struggled. And then we had some of them are really good, but the old shuffle, he tried to shuffle steer going sideways in a I think we were in a, I don't know what I think we had a Vauxhall Senator. Yeah, it did. It looked like a very, very vigorous two-handed wank. And we had this guy from Lotus. Lotus sent along this bloke called Alistair McQueen. And if Alistair's still with us, hope he's well. Very softly spoken Scottish guy. He used to drive Elises. He used to get in a lease on a Friday night and drive it to Nice and back because to do development.
Love him.
Proper, he's like Neil Clifford. Anyhow, he looks like the approximation of a character who would be a physics teacher in a 1950s high school in America with a dicky bow and a bald head. So this car came into view sideways, fully lit, crossed up, and I arrived a bit late, and this bloke got out, and it honestly looked like your granddad. It just didn't look right at all. And he wiped the floor with everyone, accepted his prize, sort of nodded and went, thank you very much, and then left. We said, who the fuck was that? I just didn't see him coming at all. So he surprised me massively. But I think in terms of skills, there's so many shouts out to people that drive vehicles professionally, and we don't appreciate enough how good they are. You know,
Good
yesterday I was walking the dog back from 2 days ago. I was walking the dog in a bit of Bristol, and some lorry had parked rather antisocially, and two buses were trying to get through a one-way street, and they were blocked up. And the guy in the lorry didn't give a shit; he was just parked up. The first bus has been driven by I'd say it was a 50-year-old woman. How she got through that, I just stood and watched. How she got through that gap, having driven HGV and done the license, I don't know how she did that. That's up there with watching, Science manage the DRS in Singapore for me. When I see this shit, I just think we as human beings are quite incredible the way we can control vehicles. And I think the biggest shout out to me goes to a bloke who was cutting the grass, one of the grassy areas near where I live, which is, I've told many people, it's my dream job. I want to do that when I retire. Love the idea of listening to an audiobook cutting grass for the council. I do it for free. What a joyous thing. So I watched this bloke. I'm having a drink. So he's got a stool, so a bench. And this bloke has got a gang mower, one of those sort of hater-style Toro front gang mowers that looks a bit like a golf course mower, but it's set to cut higher.
Yeah.
Right? And you sit on it and the rear wheels steer.
Like a zero turning circle type thing.
Yeah, one of those things, right? Yeah. So, and you sit a bit too high. CFG is not too good. Adrian Newey did not design that thing. And anyhow, I watch him. He just when you're people watching, you do this, don't you? I watch him come out of nowhere, and he's not walking well. He's walking worse than me, which if anyone sees me walk is bad. And he sort of, he goes to scratch his arse, and then he drops what he's holding, and he just doesn't look like he's really in control of anything. You know where this is going, don't you? He then gets on the mower, starts it up, and he just drives at trees. What it must be limited to 11 miles an hour, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
How he didn't hit a tree. His accuracy could be measured in microns.
Yeah. He didn't need a strimmer to do around the trees. He did the whole thing in one.
Absolutely flipping brilliant at his job. And in the discipline of driving, he was, I'm sure, a Senna or a Schumacher. Absolutely. I just sat and watched this bloke, and then I realised that I'd actually moved to watch him carry on mowing, which is probably stalking, actually, and carries with it some sort of custodial sentence. But yeah, I love watching someone that can operate machinery professionally to a standard. Is something we don't recognise enough. It's absolutely brilliant, really good to watch.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. We salute.
Just rewinding. The concept of sort of our children and cars. I've shared this with you, but I went to pick up Lola on Saturday, and drove her. And I actually took Darshi, and he's not probably the most car-tastic person in the world, but I have to say I discovered something that the three of you have had for a long, long time, which is that complete, total feeling of joy. It's actually better than, I think, owning a car, which is sharing it with your child. And I cannot explain. I mean, I can now see exactly what you get from Fincan, Herbie, from Vincent. Just this idea that your progeny is in the passenger seat, and I hope one day in the driving seat, and is just loving what you love at a completely different level. I mean, you just sat in this car and went, Dad, look at this interior. Spotted the shield, loved the sound of the engine. I was just like, she's beautiful. She's really, really beautiful. And say, one of the great moments in my life.
Yeah, it's a lovely pleasure, that.
Really is.
Poor bloke was probably thinking, well, that's my inheritance gone and that badge.
Yeah, that's where only way it's going.
Right. Here we go. Next one. Fine. So I'm just going to do this quite slowly because Clifford wants me to get moving here. So I'm just going to lose that photo a little bit slowly. There he goes.
Tired of living.
You have to order a new car today. This is good. This is
It's
made
a
you
good
think.
one.
With the sole purpose of its value increasing by the greatest percentage relative to its new price. Which one of you had the time and the inclination to work out whether there's still any kind of overs car that you can order new? And is it better going for a cheap one, a medium one, or an expensive one? Neil Clifford.
Well, there's lots of little groups here. There's lots of subgroups.
Yeah.
The subgroups are the last ofs.
Yeah.
Come on, Neil.
Exactly.
We're in a last ofs aren't we? So go and order a B3 GT Alpina.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure it's going to go up in value,
I don't think that one will.
but if you do a very special spec, it probably won't actually. But so you've got that the end of our world and the beginning of the new world. I think a Defender Octa maybe. You know, there's a few things that maybe that goes into the limited edition group. The obvious one is the 911 ST, if you can get one. You know, there aren't many cars that you can go and make yourself £100,000. That's probably one of them. There's the new Ferrari 296 Tortellini, or whatever,
Bolognese.
or whatever,
All Neo.
whatever it's going to get
The
called.
Chieti.
Yeah, exactly. So the Fettuccine Carbonara 296 Spideroni. If you've got access to getting one of those, then you are, particularly if you've watched an amazing driver do a video on a standard 296 that's sort of £165,000 now.
We'll come back to that later on. More people need to watch that. Oh shit, that's my daughter. Hold on, wait there. Sorry.
Then I'll shut up because it's hard. There's the very short peak cars that go overs for about a week. Like the Alpine 290, if you've got a very early delivery car of one of those, you might make yourself £5,000 just spinning it onto piston heads and selling it to a few people that were too lazy to actually order one. But within 2 or 3 weeks, that car's gone. You know, you're back in the negative, aren't you? So there's quite a few little groups. If I was going to do one, to answer the bloody question, what would I do? Because the Alpine 110R didn't really work out. You can get them for £85,000 now.
Yeah.
I think Renault Electric Turbo 3E, that crazy thing from the Turbo 2. They're not making many. It's a lot of money, so it's a big risk. You might lose yourself £50,000 by doing that, but you might make yourself £50,000 because maybe it is in the world of rarity. The very first electric car, because there will be one that goes for overs. So I've given you a few things to talk about there, I think.
I'm going to have a little stab at this. I might have another go after Manish and Chris.
When you've had a better answer from one of us.
To extend the time.
I do believe this is, Neil's right, this is about last ofs. We're at the end of an era. And we've got a whole heap of probably quite boring shit to come. So, and the cars that are built now, they're going to struggle to legislate off the roads for a while.
Yeah.
So if you buy it now, it's probably got a decent run. It's not going to be obsolete too quickly. Although the mayor of whoever might ban it from going into the centre of their town, at which point hopefully we all say, well, fuck your town. We don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah, we don't like it anyway.
I mentioned this car last week. If I had the wherewithal, I'd walk into a Porsche dealership and I'd buy an absolutely basic Boxster. Because what I'm hearing about is that the Boxster's coming, it's going to be electric. They're going to try and stick an engine in it. But we all know that once these projects are so well defined, if you try and ICE-ify a car that was originally supposed to be electric, it's going to come carrying some compromise.
That sounds like misery.
Yeah, even Porsche, who are geniuses, there's going to be some struggles. And I just think if you had a Boxster in the shed that was on a 26 plate, and it was a lovely spec, and it was just a very basic car, if the reviews of the new Boxster aren't so good, and everyone goes, "Oh God, you should have bought the last one,"
yeah,
it might be a bit of a run on. Well, look at that! Aren't they great? That's the last of. Yeah. I'm not saying I suppose I'm playing the game that it doesn't have to go up by a huge amount for the percentage to be great. And what I do, Neil Clifford is a fantastic observer of the car market. He's like many of us and Chris Cooper as well, but Neil especially, he's always looking where he can turn a penny. Always.
Yeah, he's the king of this.
He's nearly as good as another friend of mine who remained nameless, but some of you might have met him, Carman, who worked for a very, very big bank about 15 years ago. And one day he phoned me and said, "Oh yeah, I've just collected a Cayenne diesel from Port of Bristol." I went, Why have you done that? I mean, this is a man who had quite a lot of money. I picked up a Cayenne diesel and he drove it 20 miles and flipped it for $3,000. And I said, if we work out your hourly rate of what you earn a year, that probably cost you $20,000 to drive it. He goes, yeah, but it's just addictive, isn't it? I just felt I was beating the system. I love the fact that everyone thinks I have to waste money on cars because I'm the mug, but I made money on a Cayenne, and I love that. So with that feeling of always wanting to make money, Manish, what are you going to buy?
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you all medical advice because that is my only one. I mean, seriously.
I never thought you'd ask. I've got a whole list of treatments for you, Manish.
Thank you. I'm the guy who basically spent double the value of a car and it's still worth what it was. Maybe 20% less in the current market that I paid for it a year ago. I was thinking, people are saying that there's a little rumor that the F80 is 25% unsold or 20% unsold. So I wonder whether the Meccano Ferrari might be a bit of a punt, but I have a feeling it'll be a very long time before that makes any money. And just going the other way, the Renault 5 Volution, the electric Renault 5, I wonder whether if you buy one of those, spec it correctly and just never drive it, whether that little baby might be worth something in about 150 years. Because that is basically my only... Honestly, you will ask the odd question on this podcast that will have me completely and utterly flummoxed. Buying a new car that's going to gain value is the perfect midpoint Venn diagram. It would just have to be something I liked that I don't drive.
Well, you don't lose money till you sell it.
Sorry?
You don't lose money till you sell it.
Well, exactly.
Actually, do you know what? I disagree.
Go on.
You don't lose money ever. Because if you decide you haven't lost money, you just don't tell anyone. How many people take that? They said, I didn't lose anything on that. We never know, do we?
No,
everyone always does. It's like, I made a few quid on that. No, you didn't.
Yeah, did you count all the servicing you did?
Yeah, exactly. The insurance, you offset all that, all the costs to keep that going. Did you make money? Did you fuck? Right, go on then. Chris Cooper.
It won't be an electric car.
Go on.
It won't, because there's a place for them in the eclectic future of the motor car. There's a place for electric vehicles, but that will not motivate or ignite the passion in people that will want to desire them so much that it will drive the market. So
early Taycan turbos were a premium.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Think about that now. Sounds like madness, but they were.
Yeah, that was because there was a market. That was a market distortion caused by all the supply chain problems of COVID and then Ukraine and so forth. It wasn't a fundamental. It was a temporary dislocation.
I don't necessarily agree with that. But
I could use some other big words, Chris, but it is already 9:30 and it's well past my bedtime.
I won't use some big words. I'll just say a load of people wanted them and there weren't enough to go around, and people got caught up in the hype. And it exploded very quickly, but they were a premium car.
How's that going for you now?
Exactly, it's gone well, hasn't it?
Oh no, it was very short. It did exist. It was short.
I read the question because it's past my bedtime and I'm crotchety.
He is. He needs some Horlicks.
There's some sort of long-term, sort of permanent establishment of value here. There were no other caveats or conditions applied to it. I go to Pagani and say, build me a Zonda.
Really?
I think the winner in here is what is the stuff that you never see for sale.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
You don't ever see it on the sale. If you do hear them being sold, they've gone for 3 or 4 or 5 times what they were, because we know that it's probably is Pagani. Cameron and I were talking this earlier today. He said, what about T33, Gordon Murray's T33?
Yeah, they'll go over.
In a few years' time, when they've all gone.
They've all gone now.
People would like, it looks better than the T50. I think it sounds better than the T50. Mm-hmm. It sort of ticks a lot of boxes of what people think those things should look like. So I think Neil's little sort of segmentation is quite interesting. The winner here, I think, is the stuff that those people who don't think about, they just want it.
Yeah.
The people who want it and think, I will pay what's necessary, for that thing that you just can't recreate. So if you could walk into Horatio and say, I'd like a new Pagani, please, that will always look after you. I don't think it will be an electric vehicle. I have nothing against them. I think that Renault 5 EV thing, there was an Alpine version at Bicester yesterday. I don't think the Alpine version works. There's nothing Alpine-ish about that car over the Renault 5 version. The Renault 5 is the one I want to have. Sorry, Alpine. You know how I love Alpine, but in that case, it don't work.
I think that could be right.
Oh, Cooper has spoken.
I have.
Right, let's see what happens. Now, this next piece was set by Chris Cooper, and it's quite puerile, and I apologise.
Very puerile.
Mitsubishi is launching a new minivan / camper that is designed to accommodate, in inverted commas, horizontal jogging. You are in charge of naming the new vehicle.
Can I go first then?
You can go first, Chris.
When I read this, when I read it rather than wrote it, because I'm a bit dyslexic, I read it as Mitsubishi is launching a new minivan designed to accommodate horizontal dogging.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think your name strategy should be that different, should it?
Similar.
And I thought it was an interesting question, actually, because it sort of prompted an interesting debate in my mind about the decorum of the Japanese and whether there's a coarse sort of version and set of answers to this, or a slightly more dignified or discreet range of. So I thought if you took the sort of the dogging view of this, you might end up with a Mitsubishi syphilis or chlamydia or something, which I don't like. There's something un-Japanese about that.
You're saying you don't like chlamydia?
No, I don't like the idea of the Mitsubishi chlamydia, or indeed chlamydia purveyed by any other maker of the motor vehicle. I don't think that has a place in the lexicons of great or comedic car names.
Thank you, Lord, for landing us here. What a conversation to be having.
So, I wondered whether there's a middle ground. There's a middle ground, which I had, which was the Mitsubishi Jiggy Jiggy.
Yep, like that. Jiggy Jiggy is a good phrase.
Or the Mitsubishi Love Bus. See, they love their love hotels, Mitsubishi Love Bus. Yeah. But actually, I have to say, I'm going to have credit to our producer with this. He came out with that, and I think it's brilliant. The Mitsubishi Romp.
Yes!
Oh, no.
And my own addition to it is the special edition Mitsubishi Romp would be the Mitsubishi Romp Jilly Cooper edition.
Edition Jilly Cooper.
So there's always a question within a question, and you've nailed it. This is about silly phrases that would have been in St. Trinian's films about doing it. So
that's where I voted. Yeah, you're right.
Jilly Cooper is frankly unbeatable. Have a go, Neil Clifford.
To me, it's very simple because any car sounds better in Italian, the name. So this is the Mitsubishi 69.
Oh, I have no idea what that means, but that's good.
Oh, God. We should do these. We should always record later at night because you lot are actually quite funny. Right. Manish.
Well, I think this goes to a Japanese ad agency, doesn't it? And I came up with the Mitsubishi Winchester shotgun because it's full of pump action.
That is Banzai. Was it the TV, Japanese
Banzai.
TV Banzai? That's what that's how they'd advertise that car.
Jesus, those are good. I can't come close to those. But I just used to love the fact, first of all, we're talking about innocent phrases for talking about your parents doing it or something. But also, I want this to feed into that incredible culture of the Japanese taking totally unconnected British words and then putting them in some order for no reason at all. But they love alliteration. Some of them for no reason. So I ended up with the Mitsubishi Ning Nong Nookie. But the one that I love, just because I want to be there to launch it and I want to pay Chris Cooper to make this announcement to the crowd at the Tokyo Motor Show, it's going to be called the Mitsubishi Bum Bum Fun Bum.
I'd do that.
But you've got to. The thing is, you are paid. Your fee is based on how quickly you can say it without basically stumbling on one of those words. So, can you please, Chris, say "bum bum fun bun" as fast as you can?
Bum bum fun bum.
Do the Japanese accent. Go on.
It's come to this. It's come to this.
It's come to this. These are serious businessmen.
I can't believe we're not running car companies. It's such a
name. Turns out all you need to be is 16 years old.
Yeah.
The Winchester shotgun, because it's full of pump action. Right, this is not a topic. It's an honest question, and it better go to Cooper probably because he's probably the most grown up in the room. Just what's the difference between a convertible and a cabriolet? Can you just kill this for me, please?
Culture and geography.
Good. Carry on.
Language, basically. So cabriolet is obviously sort of a Frenchish word, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
And in America, one of our former colonies, I think the convertible is the more acceptable term. Technically, there's no difference whatsoever. It's culture and geography.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay, cool. Do you agree or disagree, Neil?
I don't think there's anything in my head that's technically different, no.
Correct.
When I use the words, I call a British car a convertible and a international car a cabriolet, bizarrely.
I think that's right.
If I saw a Rolls Royce, I'd say, oh, look at that Rolls Royce convertible.
Yeah.
If I saw a Ferrari, or something sophisticated like a Peugeot 504 cab or something, I'd say cabriolet.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether there's any reason for that really, but I mean cabriolet to me is a word we use with our car obsession, our sort of nature of being really, really into cars. I'm sure my family wouldn't see a convertible car and say, look at that wonderful cabriolet. So it's a bit of a niche term that's used by us lot, I think. But I definitely think there's an international bit to it versus, if there's an Aston, you'd say Volante, wouldn't you? But you would more likely say convertible if it was Aston.
You would.
Manish?
Yeah, I think it's very, Jaguar XJS convertible, isn't it? That's what it is. Just what do the Italians do, though? Do you know what they do? Do they say convertibile or do they say
cabriolet?
They say spider. They call it a spider quite often.
Spider, of course.
Yes.
Of course. Yes.
I'm just trying to look up on my phone frantically whether, I had in my head, I think I'm wrong, whether an E33 series Bauer from the first year of production was a convertible or a cabriolet, and whether when they made the full flat deck convertible, it had a different name, whether we could use a model of car to differentiate.
I wondered
what anyone
that.
ever did.
Yeah.
I thought they used cabriolet for that.
Did they?
For the Bauer one.
So looking at Four Star Classics website, a convertible, that, and we can see it, is the Bauer.
Yeah.
Made.
Cool thing.
That's called a cabriolet.
Yeah.
And the full flat deck is called a convertible. So a cabriolet have more of a frame to it.
To me, that's Targa, but I know that's very sort of 911 specific, really.
Okay, I'm trying really hard, Neil, to say something that's meaningful here. You've just taken me away at the shins there.
Yeah, but I think the Bristol, what do they call the 412? I think, no, they didn't call that a Targa, did they? But, I mean, maybe Targa is very specific to 911.
I think they trademarked it, didn't they? Can anyone call a car a Targa?
Well, they did that horrible XJS that wasn't really a convertible as well, didn't it? That had the sort of...
That was a cabriolet. I think the cabriolet... I'm going to look this up for next week. I think
the Stag with a T-bar and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Stag. Oh, that was complex, that, wasn't it? The bloody giant roof. Yeah.
What's the best little hidden feature you found in one of your cars? Let's start with Manish. This could be a stretch because you've only had 2 cars.
No, this is very, very straightforward for me. It's the air conditioning compressor that works.
You should have got an inspection.
I paid for 2 inspections, you bastard. 2, not 1. And you know that. You know that. You're baiting me live on the pod. You're ganging up with the people he says he spends more on leather than he does on the mechanics of his car. Well, it is true, but I paid for the inspection. It was uninspectable because, just like in this question, it was the best little hidden feature found in one of my cars. And it now works.
So you're going to say the ability to complete a journey. Right.
I drove it for a whole hour and 10 minutes, which in central London's about 6 miles on Saturday. She didn't miss a beat.
We are over the moon for you, but funnily, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think this story is over. So let's move on to Neil Clifford, who's had a few cars.
Well, there's all the little cute things that you do like. They're not really secret, are they? But you do realise that modern cars are frankly better than old cars because you've got your heated steering wheel, you've got your little fridge, all of those things that are not secret, but they are lovely, particularly the heated steering wheel, I think. The only one that is not really a secret, though it was a secret to me, and I'm always pleasantly surprised when I remember it, is the holding down the key button and it locks all of the windows and the sunroof.
Oh, lovely.
Even though when I show people that with such excitement that they didn't know, and of course they're like, of course you do. If everyone knows it does that. But
I don't think they do. I think you're right, Neil. I don't think they do know. Yeah.
Well, they definitely portray because I'm sort of all excited and trying to show off, and they're like, well, of course it does that. Everyone knows it does that. But I in my little 991, when you've got the windows down, you've got the sunroof open, you're trying to keep yourself awake. It's been a long day. You're playing a bit of REM. You get home and you're like, bollocks! I didn't close all the windows, and then you remember and you just go.
Hold it.
It does it all at once. You're like, oh, that's really good. That's mine. I like that.
I love that as well. To the point where sometimes I'll deliberately shut the car door with the window down, just so I can hold the button down.
Yes,
and watch
I do
play.
it.
Yeah.
You rebel.
Yeah. It's a nice little touch. That
I'm living on the edge, Mr. Cooper. What are you going to talk about? And please, no more of your Japanese car smut.
So when I read this question, I thought we were back to the hard to locate little buttons which release the front bottom boot.
No,
we're not back to that.
There were some people in the comments that didn't enjoy that last week, by the way. So you need to step away from that kind of
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No.
When I discovered that Lynn has a TR6, which she's had longer than we've been together, actually, and she's always said that if things get dodgy, then it'll be me that goes before the TR6.
Yeah.
When it was,
I can't think of a worse indictment of a human being than that at all. Really, carry on.
I know. It's that bad. That's why I'm in the pecking order. I'm below.
You're right with a TR7, but a 6, really.
I'm below TR6. It had an overdrive lever, not the little button on top of the gear knob. So I didn't know how to, and I went to sort of, because I'm a bit cramped in the cockpit of a TR6 and your knees are sort of up by the sort of the windscreen scuttle. And I nudged the lever with my left knee, I think. And it did that sort of lovely overdrive sort of, that lovely sort of surge, almost seamless, no clutch needed, probably does need a clutch at some point. I thought, that's clever. It's just a little lever. And you can sort of like flex your left buttock to push your knee forward. And almost imperceptibly, it changes how the car does. I thought that was a very clever, fun to find secret feature. But the most impressive one that I found when I almost ran somebody over was the hidden secret, until now, thermal camera in the first sausage I had. It had a thermal camera. And and like an alarm feature. It was when I first had the first sausage.
It's a Panamera Turbo Sport.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had two of them.
I'm staying away.
Don't talk about your first or second sausage, please, Chris. That's another podcast.
I thought we'd moved on from anyway.
No.
And it noticed a pedestrian about a step off the road, and it suddenly started flashing an alarm at me. And one of the screens in the dash transformed into a night vision camera.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
And it showed you the outline of the person you were aiming at to try and run down.
Yeah.
And it probably had a crosshair on it as well. I like to think it might have done.
And if they were about to step out into the road, could they be proved they were breathing through their mouth?
I think so, yeah. I think there was a graphic. There was some stylized graphic which had somebody orally respirating, I think is the expression you're looking for. Yeah.
I think the thing with
brilliant feature.
I think
Respiring.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Porsche is because, well, my take on it, they expect you, because they're very efficient German people, that you would, of course, sit down for 3 weeks and read the manual.
Exactly. Who does
And
that?
therefore, there's loads of hidden shit in a Porsche that none of us know about, because as if you're going to read the manual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to drive it. No, I don't want the handover. Tick all those boxes for me.
Yes.
I'm going out now.
Yeah.
That was such a Spitfire versus BF 109.
It is.
Comment, isn't it?
It is.
Who reads the manual?
Yes.
Get in there.
You don't read the manual, do you? You don't read the manual.
No.
We should talk about manuals.
Just after.
There's so many potential subcategories to this. I think 10 years ago, I used to love it when I picked up any kind of rental car in America, because there'd always be some surprise and delight convenience feature. The Americans are so much better at just shamelessly making cars comfortable and easy and lazy for themselves. They're brilliant at it. So you'd always I remember getting into a Raptor 10 years ago, and it had an extra of everything. I remember thinking I had the seat air conditioning on max, and I found another button that made it go. It pretty much sucked me to the seat.
Yes.
It was incredible. So the first 911 I had what I used to call the extra wipe, which was the wiper would be going fast, and it had an autobahn speed.
Yes.
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible. I think I once rented a Honda. We had a Honda minivan for a shoot in America, and it had an integrated built-in Hoover system in the
love
boot.
that.
I mean, honestly, it was incredible. I just thought, who thought of this? This is fantastic. But I think the one that got me recently was I sometimes keep a pen in the car, right? Because we do a bit of this, and I need to write things down. So I tend to have a little big biro now. The modern electronic world isn't fond of a pen. They don't really. They either stay in a door bin and the nib or whatever, the roller ball gets crushed because I never have a lid on my pen because I'm an idiot. There's nothing in the middle there really to put a pen. You can't, if you put it in the cup holder when you put your coffee and the pen's hidden, then the coffee pisses onto the side. And I got into my Daimler Super V8 the other day, and I opened up the glove box, and the first thing you see is a little clip for a pen.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, and I clipped it in, and it just accepted my pen beautifully, and I moved off and thought, do you know what? You can keep Apple CarPlay today. I'm going to have a pen holder.
Yeah.
That is perfect.
And if that isn't the most objectionable piece of looking backwards to wind people up who listen to this podcast and think we're old fuddy-duddies, then I don't know what is. I can't beat it. No.
I'm intrigued by the built-in Hoover.
Oh, look it up on this Honda.
Did that have like a hose that you could reach from the driving seat?
Must have done.
It did. I think it. Oh no. I think it was electric and it charged itself in the boot of the car.
Tank.
Oh right, okay. So you couldn't reach it from the driving seat when you're driving along, and
no. Right. Okay.
I've got a Jag Mark 1 that's got a thing that you can piss in. It's got
his apple juice.
We'll post a picture.
No,
It's
we
not-
won't.
It's
Sorry,
got
can you,
no.
can
But
you talk us through this now? You can't drop that gold at the end of this.
all right. So this car is the only Jaguar Mark I that ever did the Monte Carlo Rally in period 1958.
Yeah.
And therefore it's got a inbuilt funnel with a tube with a concave, so you don't splash everywhere.
No,
You
that's
can drive
not bad.
along and pee into the funnel, and then it's connected to a hole in the middle of the car and goes out the back.
Well, you just inadvertently won by an absolute mile.
Yeah,
That's
no, I've
incredible.
only just remembered that when I was thinking about that Hoover.
How did you discover that as a secret feature? Did it sort of automatically
It's on the
categorize
dash.
you?
It's just on the dash.
Well, how is it labelled on the dash?
No, I think it's pretty obvious what it is. It's a
It
tube,
wasn't
Right. We need a photograph of this.
Yeah.
I love that.
and
I
it was
think
it was there in period.
It wasn't to like put hydraulic fluid into a hard to reach reservoir. No, it must only be there so I can piss myself mid stage.
You think about it. They should bring that back.
Yeah.
Well, the motorway network would be a bit whiffy, wouldn't it? Deary me.
Also,
Well, it would only be as whiffy as our current service stations.
yeah.
Yeah. So Jaguar inadvertently invented the Shiwi. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The Hiwi.
Hiwi. The Hiwi and the Shiwi.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on. There's a little bit too much toilette about this episode. After eating an especially ripe piece of venison from your Scottish estate, this is two-car carriage, by the way.
This is for
you
the people, isn't it?
transformed psychologically into a man obsessed with the British laden cars of the 1970s. Your master plan is to resto mod 2 of these machines, including no more power than they had in period, and remaining true to the shambolic build quality that made them so unique in period. Which 2 do you resurrect? Chris Cooper.
Well, I'm not sure I would need an especially ripe piece of venison to get to the point of wanting to do this. I think I'm probably already there.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that somewhere in my very near future there is a Scottish estate
Yep.
that I can use as the canvas upon which to paint the story of these resto mods.
Yes.
I've been practicing that for the last 2 minutes in my head. 1970s British laden cars. One of them has got to be an XJS.
Yes.
Okay.
It's got to be an XJS. There were quite a few Jags XJSs at Bicester yesterday.
There was.
And the Flying Buttress, which was the source and subject to so much hatred and ridicule in 1975 when it was launched. Wasn't it 1975?
Yeah.
The London Motor Show. I might have been there as a very, very small person.
Very rare on an NReg.
And I thought, it was quite cool. I hadn't really got because I was past the E-Type. So all I was aware of was that bloated Series 3, which is a horrible idea of an E-Type. And then the XJS came along. So I think it would be a pre-HE Fireball heads with those GKN alloys.
Yeah.
The resto modded bit of it, I think, would be a bit more of a modern auto box, and not the GKN 3-speed or GM 3-speeder. I think you could resto mod it with a 5-speeder. I think that would be really, really good. And have that chap, who is it? Are they still around? Harvey Bailey. Remember them?
Yeah.
Harvey Bailey Engineering.
Rolls Royce.
Handling packs for Range Rovers and
Bentley.
Jags.
Rolls Royce, yeah.
It would be tempting for the other car to be a Range Rover, but I think it wouldn't be. I think it would be a Series 3 long wheelbase, so 109 would have been, Land Rover station wagon with a safari roof. And I think the resto modding you'd want to do to that would be put some air conditioning in it so it doesn't bloody mist up the whole time, because old Land Rovers just mist up the whole time when you got people and animals and you rounded up some wild haggis on your Scottish estate. Obviously the ones that go around the hill clockwise, because they taste nicer than the ones that go around the hill anti-clockwise, longer legs on the left-hand side of the haggis.
Fucking get on with it. I've got to go to bed.
That's what I do.
So good and so unfair. What are you going to go for, Neil Clifford?
Right, Bicester, what an amazing event. Most of us were there. I mean, you could pick all the cars from Bicester, couldn't you? There was actually, I'm stretching it into the 80s, but did anyone see the Aston Martin Tickford Mini Metro in brown?
Yeah.
Owned by, I think, Richard Gauntlet, son of Victor Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So it's an Aston Martin Metro. I'll put it on the thing. Amazing interior. I mean, literally the most gorgeous bloody thing in brown with tan, Mini Metro, Aston Martin interior. So that's been done. He's restored that car. It's perfect and gorgeous. And then I just can't go any further than the Steed. I would recreate the Speed XJ12 5.3C with the wide body kit. Literally in the mid-70s, bollocks to Gambit with his bloody red XJS. That XJ12C was my car. I just so wanted to be Steed. It was the bollocks.
He died very young, didn't he? The actor who played Gambit.
Did he?
No, the actor who played Gambit died very young.
Oh, Gareth Hunt.
Gambit. Yeah, I thought Gambit was cool, obviously, because I
wanted to be him, but we wanted Steed's car. I agree.
I wanted to be Steed with that Jag because it was always speeded up, wasn't it? When he went somewhere, it went to 3 times normal speed. And actually, I'm sure that car was for sale about 10 years ago. There's one actually for sale on a well-known auction site, but it's a 4-door one. It looks really rough as hell. Yeah. It needs to be.
Here's a question for you: how many other 70s TV detective-y type things? I presume was Gambit a detective? What was he?
They were a special detective agent.
They were the sort of SAS-y type.
How many 70s special SAS operative type shows became a failed Cadbury's chocolate bar in the 80s?
What the Hazel?
No. There was a Cadbury's bar called the Gambit, wasn't there, for a bit?
Was there?
I think there was.
I'm sure there was.
I think they named a chocolate bar the Gambit, and it didn't last long.
I was always keen on the Nutty.
Yes.
Yes, do you remember that?
Yes.
Don't remember these.
We can't go there. Neil, you need to go to bed. Don't string it along, Neil.
No,
come on.
Don't indulge me.
I'm done.
Back to the 1970s.
I'm
Back
finished.
to the 1970s. Right, so he's done his bit. Manish, what are you going to go for?
79 3-door Range Rover. Has to be that.
Yeah.
And my resto mod for that is to take it to Rockies. Just basically double. I just think get the interior done by those boys. But I wouldn't go leather. I think you could probably get some beautiful layered tartan and have the interior done in some absolute
toweling. Needs that heavy toweling effect seat.
The teddy bear fabric.
Yeah.
Rather beautiful. And the other thing I'd go for, actually, Neil, you said it. I would get myself a Metro. I really would get my sister. That was her first car, and I loved driving that car. It was brilliant.
I passed my test in one.
Metro. Sorry?
I passed my test in one. I mean, it isn't a car of the 1970s, but don't let that stop anybody.
No, 1979. The Metro came out in 79, didn't
1980.
No, it's 80. It was on a W.
Car of the 80s. Definitely car of the 80s.
Yeah.
I was total ignorance, but that's the car I would get. And the resto mod in that, I mean, you would want a little Lamborghini engine in the front. But no, you're not allowed because it's too much power. I know.
Apart from that, you're doing great, Manish, yeah.
Okay, wrong year and the wrong power, but you know.
But this is a celebration of British Leyland's shitness and quirkiness.
Look
And you've all gone.
Look at that with the graphic equalizer.
Yeah, the graphic.
A graphic equalizer in a car where you can't hear yourself scream.
You've all gone for good stuff. Really, we should be talking about some of the tat they made. That now, if you made it again, people would go, "What were they thinking?" But in some ways, what they were smoking was great fun because anyone that can sit in a room and say, "Right, we've clinicked it. We're going to make it. We think this stands a good chance against its rivals." Welcome to the Morris Ital.
Oh, come on. Italian design.
A remarkable. I'd love to make one now and roll it out and say, this is what we were doing in the 70s. You think this country's bad now? Honestly, this is what we were doing in the 70s. We should be very proud of where we are now compared to where we were then.
But
So I'd have an Ital.
what was that though? Was it a sort
Marina.
of
It was an impact bumpered Marina.
Yeah,
It really was.
yeah.
They gave it to Ital Design
Yeah.
and said, we've got something called a Marina. We're terribly sorry. Is there anything you can do? And they
To
said,
make it
no,
worse.
but we'll give us some money and you can put a little badge on the back with our name on it. That's all we can suggest.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
And also, you've got to have a TR7, haven't you?
Yeah.
I was wobbling through some Gloucester villages yesterday on the motorcycle, and a yellow TR7, just like the one from the Metal Detector, brilliant TV show on BBC called The Detectorist. One of the loveliest pieces of gentle comedy I've seen in years.
Yeah.
The lead guy drives a yellow TR7 in it. It's again a piece of brilliant car placement in a TV series.
Yes.
And it came towards me, and this bloke driving it just like the happiest man alive. And it didn't occur to him that he was driving something that even now we can't explain. But boy, did he look happy, and boy, did it look so cool in yellow. And I love the idea of putting I'd get a big budget together. I'd definitely have a big budget for a film. Chris Cooper would be driving it along the British Riviera, and we'd be selling the dream. We would sell the dream. We'd sell cars. We'd sell a lot of those.
We're wasted
I
here.
like the TR7.
So I always loved it.
It's cool as, and also Tony Pond in a V8 engine one. I'm not sure it gets any cooler than that, does it?
Fuck
No.
yeah. I do remember that. Was that a hard top?
Yeah, that
Coupe,
was.
yeah. And it was originally designed as a convertible, and they thought right at the end that the Americans were going to ban convertibles or cabrios or Targas or Spiders. So they put a roof on it, which is why when it came out, it was slightly ungainly because they didn't have much time to fashion anything other than just a lid that fitted on the space they had left. So when the convertible came out, that's what it was supposed to look like originally. They were made in Canley, weren't they? No, was it up in Speak in Liverpool? Then they moved to Canley.
I like the look of the convertible, really. We should all go and buy one.
The convertible was great. The hardtop, the window, that funny angle, it just
Vertical,
never did
slightly overhanging.
Didn't look right.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could have had an Allegro, we could have had a Princess, Woolseys. I mean, God, they made some crap.
The Princess was rough.
Oh,
Yeah, it looked good.
really?
I remember when it first arrived, I thought there's something, particularly the one with the 4 headlights rather than the big single headlights.
The Ambassador.
No, that was the one that the spoilt us with the chocolates later, wasn't it? Yeah, the Ferrero Rocher. The Ambassador was a hatchback version of the Princess.
That was really bad.
That's when Ital Design turned them down to say, no, we've had enough reputational damage.
Good memory.
Yeah.
The Ambassador. And also, do you remember when they moved, that's when they moved to the new British Leyland corporate badging as well. Do you remember that?
With the 3 little things, yeah.
It's just so bad.
They were all shit.
Did you never think that sort of like an arch capitalist like Frank Williams, that didn't get much more red-toothed capitalist, his Williams was Saudi Leyland Williams. If you could just think of the worst sponsor for a Formula One car, my car's going to fall to bits. It's poorly designed. I mean, it won world championships with the Leyland L on the side.
Yeah, with the spinning wheel spokes.
Yeah, incredible.
What a point in time. What an amazing story. And yes, we should have some more nationalised car industries because we did it so well before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a bit of music before we send Neil Clifford into the land of Nod, which is where he wants to be for the last hour.
Desperately.
Okay. Chris Cooper, can you make this the longest named song ever, please?
So it was Donington Touring Cars this last weekend, and it reminded me that it's nearly time for the Download Festival, Get Me, which used to be Monsters of Rock. Who didn't love Donington Monsters of Rock? And at Donington Monsters of Rock, who didn't love AC/DC Shoot to Thrill?
Oh,
No.
We're in. Okay, let's go. Manish.
Simple Minds, Once Upon a Time. Love that song.
Good.
I'm going through a Simple Minds phase right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Neil with an E, what are you going for?
I'm going Pet Shop Boys. Even though I always think Pet Shop Boys is 90s, clearly it's not. It couldn't be more 80s if it tried, could it? But I love every single song they've ever done. left to my own devices.
Oh,
It's such
lovely
it's
song.
such
I love
a
that.
great, that was my whole life was in front of me. I had no worries, no anxiety, loads of debt, didn't give a fuck, just playing the Pet Shop Boys in a Peugeot 205 GTI.
Anthemic song.
I'm going for the person I think is the coolest woman ever born. Is Grace Jones, because I just think she is so wonderfully bonkers.
Yeah.
Go and watch the Russell Hardy interview when she just starts attacking him for no reason at all. And also read her book where she refused to refer to Lady Gaga by her real name because she thinks she's not cool enough. Just calls her all sorts of different names. But of all the randomness, including I've already cited the video where she comes her Citroen CX comes out of her mouth in an advert. For me, nothing beats the introduction to Slave to the Rhythm, which is one of the best produced pop songs ever.
Yeah.
If you've got a big system in your car, the bass in that will just send the boot shelf into the windscreen. It's incredible. Ian McShane
Yes.
does the voice intro to it.
He does the
Lovejoy does the intro, the spoken intro to a pup song, which remains one of the most random things I've had. So go and listen to it on your streaming device.
Wow, I will.
Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm with Lovejoy in it. Thank you so much to my fellow podders for staying up well beyond your bedtimes for this podcast, which I did find highly amusing. So to Manish, to Chris, and to Neil, thank you, and we'll be bothering you with some more nonsense next week. Bye bye.